Hello, hello. Good evening, everyone. How are you all doing? And welcome to the 5th race of the 2nd season of the Classic Day Championship. And we've got a beautiful combination, I think, for you today. From what I've seen so far with these cars driving around. We're looking at Cavallor right now. We are at an old version of Silverstone. Specifically, totally not peeking at the calendar, at the 1975 version. Now, for those of you who know a little bit about racing, you will realize that this looks nothing like Silverstone. There's a good reason for that. The track has gone through many changes over the years, but if you know what to look for, there are still plenty of things you can kind of map on the current circuit. So we will be looking at that. How about right now? Go on board with Cavallor, and here on the right side you see what is now the GT3 pits lane. So this will be Cops Corner right here. Still exists, still the same characteristic sort of, followed by a bit of a straight. Mackets and Beckett's completely different. I'm not sure if it even has the same name. But you go left into a braking zone. Got a tight line to follow here. Try to get a good exit on the straight, because this straight is still the same. It's a long run up to Stowe, and if you recognize the track, you will realize here that this will indeed be Stowe because of the geometry on the track. It goes down a little bit, then back up, and then you take Stowe. Ooh, and it's a big drift for Cavallor, but he catches it very nicely. Normally you would have the Vale chicane here along with Club. I think all that's left of that is Club. But at this point it becomes a little bit of a very loose approximation of what Silverstone is now. This corner here, nearly flat, completely flat. Either way, very fast corner. And then a chicane here to finish it off. It's already a full lap of the 1975 Silverstone track. And you can play it now in Automobilista 2. But first, of course, you should watch the stream, because these drivers will be having a brilliant race if history is anything to go by. By history, of course, I mean these drivers have shown excellent skill on the track. In this car and also the previous. These drivers know what they are doing. So this track or this car? I meant this car. Yeah. Previous, of course, being the Porsche. A very, very beautiful race there. Ooh, and a bit too much on Cavallor, a bit too much speed into the corner. Try to compensate it, but to no avail, like impossible to save kind of thing. Atlas keeps going. Always good to see. You will also notice, the keen-eyed amongst you will have noticed that there's not many barriers around the track. There's a lot of open fields. The advantage, of course, is that it's harder to completely break your car. But the bad news is that if you do make a mistake, you will be very, very far from the asphalt. It will take a long time to get back. I've got a bunch of drivers. Everybody has finished driving, I think. Trying to return to the pits. We can call it a completed practice session. It says race complete, but don't pay attention to that. There we go. Straight into qualifying. 15 minutes for these drivers to set their best lap time. And often these are interesting fights. Well, Slippy has had a very strong handle on first place in the past few races. So let's see if today he can repeat that performance on a track that maybe doesn't allow for too much time gain. But there are corners like Cops where you still have to slow the car down a lot, drift through the corner, have a good exit. That is where time is gained in the end. A lot of corners are completely flat. On that we have a couple of straights and that's it. Thank you, Cavalo. I did not realize that it didn't unmute. I use an app to sometimes change my mic to mute and unmute to reduce mouse clicking, but it told me I was unmuted. I was not unmuted, so thank you for indicating. I think I was going through the grid, but I'm not sure how much you got, so we're going to speed run everyone in a moment. But I was starting with Jav. Let's start with Jav, actually. I ended with him. Jav completed alone today, but he has already set a time. 7th place so far. Close behind Oodler, a bit ahead of Bertie Tom Kyle. Let's see what he can do. He's not on the championship yet. Let's see where he shaped up. Got Bertie Tom Kyle, currently last place. Last time around, had a good performance in the first half, I will say. I think he did a very good job. Let's see if we can extend that performance today and make it 2 halves that go well. Uda in P6 currently, in P7 in the standings, has joined 2 races. This will be his 3rd. And currently in P6, decent ways behind Schwarzfahrer, who is currently 4th in the standings. 9 points behind Big Cypher and 14 behind Cavalo. He has some points to make up on those, but he has only joined 3 races so far. Good job considering the lack of a race. And we've got Nico. Nico has done excellently so far in the races he has joined. In Daytona he had brilliant pace, stellar pace, people couldn't keep up. So he took P2. Was behind Slippy, who is extremely fast. Let's see if today he can repeat that excellent performance. So far has to recognize Cavalo as one of the better drivers ahead of him. Cavalo currently 2nd in the standings and excellent listener to the stream, who corrects me when the microphone is turned off. Also co-host of this championship. He's created the series along with Schwarzfahrer. P2 in the standings, 13 points behind Slippy. Has done an amazingly consistent job so far. 3 podiums out of 4 races. Let's see if we can make it 4 out of 5 today. Wujek, I always said the same with him. Excellent pace, questionable consistency. See him in P2 again today, and hopefully this will be the race where he shows he can hold on for about half an hour. 20 laps is what we'll be doing in total. Then we've got Slippy, the man, the myth, the racing legend, currently in P1 and in the pits chilling. Has won 3 out of 4 races. He had to concede 1 to Mick Schleifer, who unfortunately isn't here today. And he'll be hoping to extend that lead in the championship today. And soon we'll have to start thinking about him winning the championship a couple of races before the end. Back to Cavalo. Now I like this car a lot. Cavalo has not much time to make up, only 200ths in order to get into P2 ahead of Wujek. And he will be pushing for that. It's quite impressive. It's the gap that Slippy has built, considering that this version of Silverstone doesn't allow for too much trickery. Doesn't allow you to do too many things other than drive straight, drive full power through corners, and there are a couple of corners for which you have to brake, of course, this being one of them. And he makes up all of that difference, all 7/10ths to Wujek in just those corners. It's incredibly impressive. Maybe there is a setup trick though. We have seen in the past Nick Schleifer being overtaken like it was absolutely nothing in Bathurst, where we found that his gearing wasn't as it should have been. Topped out too early and lacked speed on the straights. Hopefully that will not be the case as Cavalo comes through the chicane to finish his lap. Just a moment, let's see if it is an improvement. And I don't think it is. It's a little bit ambiguous where the start finish line is, but it's somewhere there. You'll have to trust me on that. Nico is a little bit behind there, but he has his own 1 second behind area. Schwarzfahrer and Oudler are close to each other, but are over a second behind Nico. Nico has a very good pace, as we've seen in Daytona. Just a little short of what Cavalo and Wojciech are able to do though today. And we have, and I'm very, very happy to see this, Dustin is joining us again, apparently. He's in the pits. That's a very good sign. I think he was literally just in time, because after 1:30, after 1 minute 30 left in qualifying, I don't think you're allowed to join anymore, but apparently he pressed the button just before that. So he's in by basically a technicality, but he is in, and he will be joining us today again. Dustin currently 11th in the championship, does not reflect his skill though. He did one race, finished P4 I believe, and I think his wheel broke after that, but I think it's been fixed. Hopefully we'll see him drive a little bit, and I think that's what he's trying to do, just setting things up a little bit for the race, see if the wheel works, the car works and everything. So I don't think Bertie Tom Kyle has improved his time a decent amount. He's currently still in P8, but only 3.7 seconds behind. That was 4 seconds earlier, and Dustin is driving. Seems to be that everything is working correctly, and that is excellent to see. Now, a couple of people are still driving, only a couple. We've got Cavalo, Jav and Bertie. Cavalo, I'm interested to see what he can do as he goes through what I think would be... I honestly have no idea. I think that's one of the later corners on the track. Entering the second half. Yeah, I think it's where Club would be and beyond. To left on the last little bit of track. As Jav, I think, improved a decent amount. P5. Very, very nice job. And Cavalo abandons his run, tries pit entry, and that's a preview. That is a very important preview, because there is a mandatory stop. They have to drive into the pits correctly, and it can go wrong, just like that. So they will have to be perfect in that case, and Dustin actually decides to practice that as well. But qualifying is now completely over. Slippy again with a brilliant pole position time. Wojciech closely edges out Cavalo. P2 and P3 right there. Nico in his lonesome in P4. And then we've got Jay. It showed as Jav earlier. It's Jay. Jay in P5. We've got Schwarzfahrer in P6. Oudler in P7. Bertie Tom Kyle in P8. And Dustin joined too late to set a time, but he is here and we are very happy to see him. We've got a couple of 2 minutes actually in total from the start of the timer to set up their cars, add enough fuel, maybe change the tires if they like that, just before we go racing. And it is very important to focus for the start, because if we look on the roof, if you look very, very closely, you can see Cobb's Corner all the way over there. It's a very long run to there. So it is especially important to get a good launch. I've seen people mess up the launch in earlier races. It could be Slippy's turn to suffer the consequences of that. But let's see. Good start could make all the difference. We've got 20 laps today, no timed race. Apparently that's because historically, with these cars, in an old championship, they raced every race timed except for Silverstone, where it was 20 laps total. Rounds out to about half an hour. Let's see how we start then. You can hear the lights, you can't see them unfortunately. And the lights go out and there's a very, very good start for, I believe it is Nico. And Nico just goes on the inside of everyone. I don't think he has a drive-through for that. I think that was just a brilliant start. And passes Cavalo, passes Jay. Oh, well, Jay has also a very good start. I think he passed Schwarzfahrer instead. And Dustin also has a very good start from last all the way up to P6, just on the start alone. Wojciech unfortunately drops a couple of places. Oh, and that's a very late break from Jay. He has to use Nico's car to brake. And that loses him time. Cavalo all over the back of him. Round the outside then. He's just not left enough space. Not necessarily a dirty move there. But the position does stand defended by Jay, who will be looking to overtake Nico, but Nico is already losing touch with Slippy, who is a decent way ahead of everyone, but the pack is close together. Nico having to fend off Jay, who has to fend off Cavalo, then Schwarzfahrer, Wojciech, Udler. Dustin has lost all that he has gained, back into P8, and Bertie from Carl is close behind that. Quickly look at Cavalo from the cockpit and has a very good time. Jade makes a small mistake and Cavalo is through just before the chicane. And he clears him completely. Cavalo onto the podium for now. Schwarzfahrer having to deal with pressure from Wojciech, but Jay actually right on top of Cavalo again. A very good exit out of the chicane. But not ahead in time for Cops. But oh, there's a big mistake from Cavalo. Too late on the brakes. Oh, and there's a really big mistake, I think, from Udler behind. I think Udler has crashed. He rejoins the track, though, and continues. Yeah, Jay re-overtakes Cavalo. And Nico is still P2. Now we'll be facing the pressure. Schwarzfahrer has to stave off an attack from Wojciech, but Wojciech is right there with him around the outside then. He has the better speed, it seems. And there he goes. Wojciech up into P5. Excellent job done. Might very well be a case that a lot of these cars can slipstream each other on this track. They are very long straights. And the pressure can also get to you if you're ahead. You see that in Wojciech, a little bit wide there. Schwarzfahrer very close behind. It's a direct result of a small mistake. Oh, I think Jay has also made a mistake, and Cavalo is right behind. Looking on the inside for the chicane is not going to happen. I will tell you that much for a fact. He brakes very cautiously as Jay also cautiously goes through that chicane. Cavalo trying for a better exit. I don't think he quite got there. Schwarzfahrer still trying to pressure Wojciech. Dustin a little bit behind. Behind there we have a really big mistake from Wojciech. Keeps the car on the road, but Schwarzfahrer has much better speed now. And then on the inside of Maggots into Baggots. And through goes Schwarzfahrer. Again, an excellent overtake. And we're seeing a lot, but Schwarzfahrer goes wide when he spins the car entirely. Losing 2 positions to Wojciech, to Dustin. Bertie Tom Kaal goes through, and Udler is still behind. But for how long he is coming in to take advantage. He has much better. Oh, and he didn't calculate that correctly. Sure, Schwarzfahrer did kind of have the right to be there, but that's very unfortunate. Oh, and we see. Oh, a big mistake for Cavalo. Cavalo is off the track. What happened here? And there's a car upside down. What happened? That's Jay upside down. I think he's looking for the reset car button. There is a button. You may have it bound. I tend to forget about it. I think Jay's forgotten about it, and Jay is in last place. What happened? Cavalo also lost a lot of positions. He's in P6, and Dustin is taking advantage, overtaking Wujek. But he goes very wide there over the curbs, and the car spins. Wujek continues. Crazy things going on. Bertie Carl is in P4. Dustin is gonna have to struggle with. I say struggle with Cavalo. Cavalo has to repair damage. Goes in for his mandatory stop. What a crazy race so far. Whatever happened, I think I will look at a replay. I normally don't do this, but I think we'll look at a replay after the race. Lap 3. Just make a mental note. I'm just gonna put it in chat, you know, so I remember. Dustin, I think Dustin also made a mistake. That is Betty Tom Carl there, also standing still. What is happening, ladies and gentlemen? Wujek comfortably in P3, 22 seconds behind. We find Dustin. Slippy has no idea what's going on. Everybody's having a breakdown. Nico and Slippy are just having a Sunday drive. Sometimes that happens, you know. It's racing sometimes. Jay finally makes it to the pits, but he is so far behind everyone. Oodle is close behind Bertie Carl, who has made a mistake. Schwarzfahrer has restored order a little bit, going back into P5. Lap 3 and lap 4, everything happening all at once. Unfortunately, the camera angles on Amos 2 don't do the racing justice sometimes. It's very hard to sometimes see what is going on. So we'll be looking at replays after the race. You have my word on that. Lap 3 and lap 4 will be closely looked at. Not necessarily to a sign plane, but just because we want to know what happened. We need to know who touched who and where. Oodle is chasing down Bertie, but Bertie is doing a decent job keeping the car on the road. I think there's Jay right behind, but he is a lap down. He will be faster, so I think people ahead might decide to let him go. He is a long way behind. Oodle is struggling a little bit. You could tell he's not as fast as he used to be, and he has lost touch with Bertie. So Jay goes right through. What is it with this car that causes these things? I'm not necessarily blaming the car. I don't think the car did anything wrong, you know, it's always the driver. It's always a driver issue. As a rule, essentially. There's something about this way this car handles that makes any small mistake so much larger. I feel like Bertie Tom Kyle has found his groove a little bit, where he went through the chicane very smoothly. He's not setting the world on fire in lap times, but that is not necessarily what you want to do anyway. Maybe a little bit wide there on Cops, but he kept it just within the lines. Oodle has gone in for his stop, he repair some damage, and get the mandatory stop out of the way. Cavalo is a decent way behind. That is very damaging to his championship, unfortunately. Closest fight we have. It's very unfortunate because we had good fights and then everything happened. I don't know what happened. We'll have a look at that. But we have Schwarzfahrer having to defend against Bertie, who is behind. Schwarzfahrer has set a better lap than him previous time around. Do you see Dustin catching up with Wujek? Wujek doing a decent job getting through the melee, surviving. 6 laps in, he is on the podium, and that would be a relief for him. Nico in P2, doing the same thing as he did in Daytona 2 races ago. But he is not as quick this time as he was then. Dustin sets the fastest lap of the lap last time around. Faster than Slippy is what we're looking at. UCJ catching up to Betty Tom Kyle. Will he be led past, or will he have to fight his way past? In the end, it is the decision of Bertie, and you know what? That's all up to him. Like Jay has lost a little confidence in the car, but it depends on, of course, that crashed out quickly when I hop on board with Dustin. He seems to be on a roll. His fixed wheel is indeed feeling good to him. He is setting very good lap times. So Wujek is losing time hand over fist. I think I saw him 12 seconds behind earlier. Currently it is 18 seconds. That is, I think, for a very large part due to Slippy being a speed demon, breaking several traffic laws, maybe. Well, Wujek also made a mistake, as you can see, 134.0. That is not the kind of lap time that you would normally see. That is also what happened. The mistakes are starting to creep in for Wujek. Is he going to keep this position, or the demons of the past, is inconsistency going to haunt him again? Only time will tell. Nico set a 1:29.0 last lap. Actually, a very decent lap time for most people. Dustin and Slippy are faster though. Is it too much to say Dustin could be second? I think it might be. The gap is really big. If Shuking Nico stays consistent, it'll be very hard to catch up. Keep an eye on Wujek. Ooh, on the curb, it pulled him a little bit too much inside, maybe. Collects a couple of cones. Hopefully, no damage to his car. I know how AMS is. Sometimes it does that. Dustin chasing and is extremely fast. On 28.2. Again, over a second faster than Wujek. Almost 1.2 seconds. 1.5 seconds, excuse me, 1.5 seconds. Dustin is pushing, trying to take that podium. Still need it, he's behind in the championship. The only result so far was a P4 in race 3 at Daytona. So he would really like a good result today. And the way he is driving, there's a good chance he's going to get that. Wujek does have a chance to defend though. But it is still 9 laps to go and both of these drivers still need to stop. How are you going to protect against a Dustin who might want to undercut? How are the tires going to hold up as well? Because these cars apparently do like to eat tires from time to time. We saw it in Kilami as well, where people had an alternate strategy of stopping for just fuel, no tires, just to be through it a lot quicker. They struggled so much on the tires and had no pace by the end. let's say there's few corners today, right? So it shouldn't be that bad. Svartfire does go into box. And I quickly... It's hard to say if it will just be fuel or tires. Actually, the quick giveaway will be... Yeah, it is tires as well. The animations are not accurate. It's just the time that I'm looking at. How long is he standing still for? Could be damage repair, but I think that's unlikely. Despite the way his car looks. And maybe it is damage repair, who knows. I'm quickly looking at the timings for penalties. There are no penalties registered so far. Slippy enters lap 11 already. Wojciech is starting to see Dustin in his mirrors. And Dustin, ooh, is getting a good view of Wojciech, but completely misses that corner. You can do that a couple of times, but eventually the game will give you a drive-through penalty for exceeding the track limits too often. Nico goes into the pits for his mandatory stop. Slippy keeps on driving. Wojciech and Dustin follow through. Bertie currently in P5. Now he will be ecstatic with that result, I think, as it stands. He does have to survive an oncoming Cafalor. The Cafalor needs to push. Cafalor can't relax too much. Bertie does go into the pits, and I think Cafalor has already boxed, so don't listen to me. Bertie is going to drop back a little bit because of that. And a lot of drivers behind him have already stopped. I think, in fact, all of them have. Let's see where he comes out. As we watch Dustin trying to make up for his previous mistake. And Slippy also goes into the pits. There he is. So Dustin and Wojciech continue their fight. Is one of them going to box? That is the question. Where is Wojciech going? Wojciech is going to continue. Dustin decides to try the undercut. It's very important for Wojciech to push everything he has. These tires need to be used. They request to be used. He takes the provisional lead of the race. Slippy will appear right behind on cue. Thank you. And we'll have fresh tires and a heap of pace to show off. Nico in P3 currently has re-overtaken Dustin after he stopped. I think Wojciech is the last driver to stop. Bertie Tomkau currently in P6. I think he will be happy with that as well. 11 seconds behind is Oudler though. Oudler has 130s under his belt. Could be an interesting one for later. But I think Cafalor will make a big mistake. A 141 is not the kind of lap times you want to be seeing. He had stopped earlier. Wojciech, though, will be pushing as fast as hard as he can. And he will need to. Dustin is racing him. Not physically on track, but just on lap time alone. We're trying to finish his undercut as Wojciech goes into the pits, but very gingerly, very carefully. And he knocks over a couple of islands just to try and eke out a little bit of distance. Now, where is Dustin? Dustin going through this left-hander. We pushing as hard as he can. Wojciech is still standing still. Dustin through the chicane then. It's going to be successful this time. Ooh, he does cut a little bit. Not ideal. Wojciech is still standing still though. And I think that is Dustin through for definite. Wojciech only starts moving now, but Dustin has already passed pit exit and Dustin is up into the podium places. P3 it is for him. Where does Cafalor... I think he crashed. I think he made a fatal mistake. He's going back to the pits to repair. Wojciech in P4 then he remains. with no direct threat from behind, but from Kyle with decent lap times, 130.7. That is what he will need to stave off attackers. In P5 he is again. Stratfire is in P9. Not sure what happened there with him. Dustin is 15 seconds behind Nico. That is unlikely to amount to anything unless Nico makes a big mistake. We have seen it from people. Even some people you wouldn't expect it from, such as Cavalo. P7 currently. Looking through the grid, doesn't appear to be anything developing except for Schwarzfahrer having caught up to Jay. Now this is a fight for at least a point in the championship. They do go down to, well, at least P10. When Jay does go a little bit wide on exit there, doesn't have the ideal line, and now we see what Schwarzfahrer can do with a very good line through there. More speed. Will it be enough though? Maybe around the outside he is looking. Later on the brakes, it's not enough. Jay stays ahead. But Schwarzfahrer does again have the better line, and there are straights behind. No chicane here to ruin the flow. And there is also a chasing yellow car, who I'm guessing is Dustin. Dustin had a yellow car. And there he is indeed. Are closely following, and Dustin will be looking at the blue flag situation. Not entirely sure what the rules are. I don't think they have to move over. They are just not allowed to defend, and Dustin doesn't go for a move when it goes through that chicane. A bit dodgy again, but a big mistake for Schwarzfahrer. Sees Dustin go through without issues, and annoyingly for Schwarzfahrer now, and this is the most significant bit here, because Dustin's not racing for position, but Schwarzfahrer is. He wants to overtake Jay, but there's a car in between. And that's a big... Dustin will be trying his best to also pass Jay, and then the problem will disappear. Jay is not taking the ideal line there at all. That gives Dustin so much speed to just fly past. Also Schwarzfahrer enough speed to catch up again. And suddenly... this fight continues. Got a reprise of what we saw just a moment earlier. As Dustin makes his way through, these two will continue to battle. Let's give Jay an opportunity to chase the slipstream of Dustin. I feel like Schwarzfahrer just has a little bit of a better feel of the car most of the time. So a very neat line. We'll be looking for a better exit out of the chicane, but it's not going to be enough to catch up before cops. We'll have to do it after that. Seeing like small bits and pieces where Schwarzfahrer is a little bit quicker in and out of corners. Jay touching a little bit of grass, that will not be the fastest way to do it. But he is alright. Still able to defend. Schwarzfahrer closing a little bit on the brakes. It's the apex a little bit better. Will have a better exit. Jay does tend to go wide there. And now the overspeed from Schwarzfahrer is going to be enough. Maybe too much grass there slows him down. And we'll have to rely on the slipstream to pull him along. But no overtake yet. He will be running out of time. Oh, Jay makes a mistake though, a little bit wide. Gives Schwarzfahrer an in. But is it going to be enough? The overspeed isn't really there. On the inside, nothing there. Oh, and Dustin makes a big mistake ahead. That might provide a distraction for the less experienced driver. Jay has to go for the racing line. Oh, and they touch. I don't think Jay was entirely aware that Schwarzfahrer was on the inside, and that is very unfortunate. Schwarzfahrer car destabilized and sent into the wall. Will not be happy with that. We'll see what comes of it. And I get the feeling might be seeing a couple of words in the paddock. I think Jay has been involved in a couple of incidents. He was also upside down, if you recall, at the start of the race. Cavallor suspiciously was also off track right there. So we'll see what comes out of that. Could just be inexperience. Thank you very much, Amos 2 Camera. We will always have Amos 2 Camera moments during every stream I do. I think that's just completely unavoidable, unfortunately. Goes a little wide through there. He's alright. Cavallor, though, this is important, chasing. This will be full position. Cavallor has excellent speed, he has shown that. But today has just not been his day. Wojciech also now pumping out 128.7. Oh, where was that when it was needed, you could say, but it's got there eventually. P4 still a good result. But I think his cautious pit entry is in the end what cost him. And maybe he had to repair damage. That is also very possible. Chasing now Udler though, that is still going to be going on. Cavallor makes a little bit of mistake. Ooh, on the grass, too much throttle. He's okay. These cars can absolutely snap. You try to apply too much throttle on the grass. But he survives. For this turn then. Get as good of an exit speed as he can. See if he can close in. 130.2 from Udler, 129.3 from Cavallor. There's definitely something here for him as Jay does exit the pits. Tracks camera, we do see a couple of cars close together. I think that is Slippy in the background. When Cavallor goes around the outside there, on the inside for the next corner then, is Udler going to be overtaken right here? And he is, Cavallor. A very nice and clean overtake there. P6 for him, and that's important for his championship. Schleifer may not be here today, may not be able to catch up, but he will when he returns. If he returns, hopefully he does. In P6 right now, an extra point in the championship, always good. Benedetto Carlo still ahead, P5. Excellent day for him on the job today. Wojciech decides to box. I'm not sure if that's out of luxury, if he's running out of fuel, or if he had a drive-through. I think he had a drive-through, but he served it and he's still okay. So it is absolutely still okay. Slippy might be the fastest man that we have seen in the Classic Day Championship. To dethrone Mick Schleifer as the greatest driver. But there he goes on his final lap to close out this 5th race around Silverstone. 5th race in the season, the first one and only one around Silverstone, of course. A really big drift around that corner. You can see the amount of confidence he has in his car is unparalleled. No other driver we have seen can match that. We've seen Dustin set very good lap times. However, even he had mistakes, mishaps. We've seen him turn around at the chicane. Slippy is confident, he is consistent, he is damn quick. And today he will show it again in results with a beautiful win here in Silverstone. Only the chicane between him and the finish line. All the drivers seem to be challenging for a position. We see also that Slippy is between Oudler and Cavallor. Cavallor goes across the line to do another lap. He is safe from Oudler, and Slippy crosses the line in P1, and an excellent victory for him. Again and again and again. That is his 4th win out of 5 races. Only beaten once by Mick Schleifer, who isn't here today, unfortunately. Nico matches his best result of the season. Daytona he was 2nd. Today he is 2nd. And Dustin, after some mishaps, technically with his wheel, with his setup in P3 today, comes back and immediate podium. And Wojciech, not a perfect race, for sure. But that is a P4. That is a crucial P4. Very important for him. And if he can cross the line to take that, I think he will be satisfied with that. Drivers ahead are very strong drivers. So P4 is nothing to sneeze at. Wojciech takes home 8 points in the championship. Betty Tonkyle right behind. I said last race he improved a lot. First half was great. Today he made it 2 very decent halves. P5 looks to be secured ahead of Cavallor and Oudler. Cavallor still driving, Oudler has already finished. Cavallor is actually quite close behind, but not close enough. And that completes the race. I have to save this replay. I did promise you guys a look at it. And we will be doing that in a moment. Slippy P1, does he also have the fastest lap? He clearly does. That is a really big gap to the next driver, who is Dustin. About 6 tenths. Excellent race from these guys. Now I'm quickly going to exit the main menu. Normally I stay in there, but we are going to have a look at what happened in lap 3. I'll be giving a little bit of analysis. I will try not to point a finger. But sometimes the finger points itself. We'll see. Is a little bit of a glitch with the vehicle graphics, but we will survive that. The game will also be glitching and saving my replay yet again. That's just what it does. There you go. And we will be... I'll be saving your ears, because the sound is sped up when I speed up. And we'll be looking on board with, well, yeah, Cavallor. Looking at the chase cam. Lap 2, I think it was, lap 3. Lap 3, I said in chat. Alright, so let's see what happens. Cavallor through Cops seems entirely clean. He's behind Jay, he's ahead of Wojciech. We'll get a slightly... have some sound again as well. Oh, excuse me. I don't like how the chase cam sometimes changes. Something happened there. Oh, no. It's just Jay running away a little bit. Yeah, braking as normal. I think there's already some things going on. No, not quite. That's what it sounds like when we speed up. Alright, so here Jay goes wide. Oh, that's what happened. That is an unfortunate error by Jay. That's fair to say that is an error. Simply going on the grass, full throttle, and the car spins. I did say earlier, if you're on the grass and you throttle, these cars can and will snap. Unfortunately for Jay, I said that after it happened. Otherwise, I don't think it would have happened. That's not the only thing that happened, of course. We had many incidents. I'm not sure who else was involved with those incidents, but we'll be looking through it really quickly. I'm looking at Stradvar just so I can see which cars were involved. Stradvar taking a very liberal line, but he doesn't over throttle. Notice he makes a mistake there by going on the grass, but he doesn't throttle too much and make that small mistake into a really big one. I think 2 times is acceptable for the ears. You see Cavalo going into the pits on the right there. And then I think further on we will see more incidents, unfortunately. Stradvar, hopefully he's far enough behind that we can see. Yeah, there you go. There's a little bit of a mistake, I think, from Bertie and Kyle. So let's see what happened here. Only because I promised, I think it's simply driver error. But it's interesting to see, oh, the car just doesn't brake. And he goes straight. It is a safe way to crash, to be fair, but ooh, not a great rejoin. He's alright. That's one thing that we missed. I think the rest of lap 4 was alright. I think we've seen worse. Again, I will go as far behind as I can. Big mistake from Dustin, I think, on the braking. See there ahead, but keeps the car on the road, crucially. I think that's how we got where we were at the end of lap 4. That is interesting. A little bit of an incident. Nothing too crazy. So I would like to stop it right there. Well, I say nothing too crazy. A car was upside down and the other one completely totaled. Big repair times. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. It has been an honor to once again cast this race. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time. We'll be driving around. Let me grab my handy dandy calendar. The old version of the Hockenheim Ring. 1977 version. 2 weeks' time will be the 13th of June. Right on this channel. Don't miss it. I will see you then.